This podcast is sponsored by Jabra Enhance. Getting hearing aids is no picnic. It's expensive, confusing, time-consuming, right? Actually, no. With the Jabra Enhance Select and Premium package, you can get state-of-the-art hearing aids and professional care without the hassle. Jabra Enhance offers advanced rechargeable hearing aids delivered to your door for thousands less than you'd expect. No offices, no waiting rooms. Just take the online hearing test to personalize your hearing aids. Enjoy speech clarity, noise reduction, and hearing technology that adapts to your unique sound environments. And the audiology team can provide adjustments to your hearing aids remotely on request for 3 years. And the best part? You'll likely pay thousands less than if you went to a traditional audiologist. And now, for a limited time, save $200 when you order Jabra Enhance Select Hearing Aids with promo code PODCAST. Go to JABRAenhance.com, enter promo code PODCAST to save. JabraEnhance.com, code PODCAST.
For eligible individuals 18 and older in 50 United States and Washington, D.C. with mild to moderate hearing loss only. Audiology team may not be able to program hearing aids for some types of hearing loss. See website for details and important safety information.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
It's time to handle with care. Now, your host, Carrie Madrid.
Welcome back to Handle with Care, Breast Cancer and Beyond. Now, I am not Carrie Madrid. I am Chris Donovan, the producer on the show. But I sat in with Carrie on this show because the guest is one of my really good friends. Her name is Diane Callahan. I've known her for over 10 years. We've done a lot of work together with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And, honestly, her and Carrie have a very similar personality. And my wife was like, hey, Carrie, you should meet Diane. Hey, Diane, you should meet Carrie. And this is that meeting. Now, there was no problem with the conversation. Actually, it went quite long. So we're going to cut this up into 2 parts. This is the first part of the Diane Callahan interview where we talk about life and thriving and cancer surviving and her book and her husband and how they met and just all sorts of stuff. So with that all being said, please sit back, enjoy the first half of this interview with Diane Callahan, who is amazing. And we're supposed to be talking about her book, but we tangent a lot. So enjoy. Hey, everybody, it's Chris Donovan, the producer of the show here. I'm co-hosting with Carrie today.
Thank you for helping.
You're welcome. This is a little different for me on the show because nobody usually hears my voice. They just hear you go, he's going to have to edit that part out.
And edit you do.
Yes, but the show today is with Diane Callahan, a really, really good friend of mine. I've known her for probably 10 plus years now.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she's here to talk with us about, this is where you say something, Carrie.
So I met Diane, excuse me. I met Diane through Evelyn, your wife, Chris.
Yeah, that'd be through our last part.
Yeah. So Evelyn said to me when I started the Care Project, you've got to meet this lady named Diane. You're going to love her. You guys have crazy big personalities and the same big heart, and you're going to get along great. So you came in and we chatted.
Mm-hmm. And it was so great.
Yeah, we just sat at my desk. I was working.
How much wine?
None.
We were sober.
Need it.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right?
We don't need it.
You're on the clock.
We'd be dangerous if we had one.
Don't worry.
Next episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Breast cancer after dark.
Yeah, Diane came up with a great new
show.
How do we say it? Like a spinoff.
Yeah, a spinoff.
Like a special episode. When we get a Patreon, that's what they get.
Maybe we'll do a series.
What's a Patreon?
It's like where they start paying for extra content. Or like the original episode's free. The original episode's free every week, but if they want to pay like $5 a month, they get like an extra episode.
Cancer after dark.
Yeah, we'll just make it cancer after dark.
Yeah, because what about men who lose their testicles? They got to talk about that too.
And we learned in a recent episode that we recorded with a male survivor that they often have erectile dysfunction following medications.
That's true.
Yeah.
And then, I have a husband who's survivor of colon cancer and kidney cancer at the exact same time.
Oh, jeez.
We evicted it all from his body.
You guys just go big or go home.
Yeah,
they kind of
he's
show
all
off
competitive.
A little bit.
Yeah,
Really.
I've had it 3 times. He's had 2 different kinds. What do you want?
Talk about it. One-upper.
Dynamic
I was going to
duo.
say one-upper, but it's really more than that.
Yeah.
I know, right?
So tell us about
We're
that.
sick and wrong.
Tell me about that.
So
How did you survive?
In one sentence, how did you make it work?
Well, wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
So you are a 3-time cancer survivor.
Yes.
What types of cancer?
The same one, because that little, are we allowed to say?
You can say whatever you want.
That
on
little
my show.
bitch liked me a lot.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with an aggressive version, actually 2 kinds of stage 4 non-Hodgkin lymphoma, which is blood cancer.
So wait, out the gate, stage 4.
Yeah.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
do like to go big or go home.
Go big or go home, man.
All right.
That's right.
When? When was your first diagnosis?
It was in 2007. And so what's weird, I learned something much later. The year before that, I was having some weird autoimmune stuff. My hair was falling out in like crop circles, like circles. And I was having like lots of headache. I was just jacked up. And so they started to look at my blood, and they thought I had leukemia, and did bone marrow biopsies, and that's super fun. And
Yeah, I watched one.
oh my God.
Years ago. I used to work in. This is a sidebar. Sidebar. I do this a lot. I want to describe this because I think people hear that and they just think, oh, it's a biopsy, right?
It's a little,
nothing.
yeah.
I watched an elderly woman get a bone marrow biopsy because I worked for a pathologist. And I love all the surgery stuff. I still love all that stuff.
Now, for somebody that's not like into the Spider-Verse with you guys on all the terms,
Yeah.
that would be I think it's like a needle into the middle of your bone grabbing something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, then I know what
But
it is.
But it's a lot.
more to that.
So I watched this woman lay on a regular. Yeah, so,
I know, right?
So
And it
you
goes
might,
right here.
You might want to brace yourself for this. what
Pass out.
I witnessed was this woman laying on her stomach, and the doctor was on a little step stool, standing up above so he could get leverage to basically push down hard onto her, like her hip area, I guess.
The back of her hip bone right there.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that
Right-
so?
right-
That's
right
what
there.
you went through.
I had a lot of them.
Oh.
And what they do is
Define a lot. How many?
10.
Oh my God, and she's unsure.
I mean,
You're unsure at 10.
I
it's
might
probably
have
be
blanked
like
some of them
15.
out. I don't even know.
We
Could be
might
20.
need
I
wine
don't
next.
know. I know. The thing about a bone marrow biopsy is that it is, according to my doctors, it is the most painful test that they put adults through without knocking you out. Now, a lot of people choose to go like with that Twilight, getting knocked out, Twilight version. I've never done it that way because then it's a whole day thing because you got to get knocked out-ish, and then it takes a while to get out of it.
So you chose no anesthesia.
Yeah,
You're a badass. You're
I am
better
a
than me.
badass.
I'd be like, knock me
You probably went back to
out.
work knowing you.
Yeah, actually. A time or two.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a nightmare story, though. Well, first, let me just say, the bone marrow biopsy is they give you Novocaine, basically, in the region where they're going to go in, so that at least your flesh doesn't hurt. But you can't numb a bone.
You can't numb a bone.
So
I was
once
just
they
gonna say that.
so once they punch into your bone, it's
Can you
and then-
just think about that for a minute? Punch into your bone.
Well, I'm guessing that's why they do it up on your upper hip because it's like
Yeah.
that's the strongest,
yes.
and your
And-
leg locked won't like move. And
Yes,
Oh.
and that's where the bulk of the bone marrow does its work. So it takes bone marrow becomes red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and so all that work is done in these bigger bones. And so they punch in there and they suck out some marrow, and then this is the bad part. Just be ready, Chris. Then they have to break off a piece of the bone,
Oh,
a little chunk.
Oh, is that it? Just a little chunk.
Yeah,
I fell out of a tree once. That happened.
yeah.
No big deal.
They didn't take the bone; they put it back in place.
It was, so that's the hard part. At one time, my oncologist is exceptional at this, and he uses a buttload of the Novocaine, right? And he uses solid, big needles, and so one time he went to break the bone and it didn't break, and he's like, oh. And oftentimes my husband's usually there with me, and he's holding my hand, and he laughs because the look of pain on my face is the same as Dr. Farrell's face because it is painful. I mean, he's got some carpal tunnel issues. It's hard to get into a bone.
It's hard.
So he's
yeah.
in pain. I'm crying. And then that time when he had to go to break off another piece, I had to drop the F-bomb. It just came out.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
And his-
only
and-
once.
Right.
Well,
I would have had a whole slew. I would have made a whole new song.
I know. And then usually, there's the rooms because you're just in an office room, right?
Yeah, regular
So they're right
doctor's
next to each
office.
other. So here I am. here I am in there. I'm like, are you in? Are you in there? Can you hurry up? Get in there. Oh my God, are you done? And I'm thinking, what are these people thinking? Because they can hear me. I'm not quiet.
I thought this was not the breast cancer after dark yet.
Well, it wasn't dark, let me say. But
She likes the lights on.
Why not? But the very first time, I'm going to tell you a horrible story, though. It's not funny. The very first time I had a bone marrow biopsy was during that first year when they were like, maybe you have leukemia? We don't even know. So I had to have a biopsy, and I had this doctor who no longer works at Kaiser because I and many other people shared our thoughts. He was like Eastern European kind of guy, which is no problem. That's fine. So when we get in there, I don't know what to. I've never heard of this bone marrow biopsy. Right at that time, I'm naive. My best friend's with me. We get in there and I say, "Hey, is this gonna hurt? Like, is it?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's uncomfortable," is what he said. Uncomfortable.
Oh, jeez.
Like some of the conversations I've had.
Right.
So then I said, well, have you ever had one done? Because you know how sometimes doctors go through a test or a procedure just to know what it is. Wow. And he's like, I don't have cancer. Why would I? And I'm like, well, I'm glad you don't have cancer. So that's good. So then it's supposed to take about 5 minutes. You can usually handle 5 minutes of pain, right? Ooh. That's about as long as it takes.
That's a long time.
It's a long time, but that's usually, it can get the job done. So I'm laying on the table. They had a curtain, so my best friend's behind the curtain. He was in there 20 minutes.
Oh, hell.
And I am like sobbing. It hurt so bad. And I didn't want to ask any more really questions and stuff.
You're just trying to get through it.
Yeah. And Nan, my best friend's on the other side of the curtain. She's crying. She can't help. I mean, and so then when he gave up because he couldn't get it done. And so, he said, okay, well, we're going to have to schedule another one. Mm-hmm. I'm like, why? And he said, this is what he said to me. Now, we all know I'm not like a size 5 skinny bikini babe, okay? But I'm not huge. And you go right here, so on your hip, how much fat could be there?
Right.
I mean, I guess different people, but
yeah.
He literally pulled the needle out. As he was pulling it out, he said, well, this is a lot easier to do on thin people. So why don't you go on a diet and come back in a couple weeks?
Well,
he's lucky I didn't get that needle and stab his eye. Yeah. Isn't that a wretched
I'm really
thing
sorry
to say?
You had that experience.
Yeah. I am
that's
too.
Really shitty. There's no other way to say that.
Because why would you say that?
Yeah. So that was let's go back to your diagnosis. So your original diagnosis, 2007?
Yeah, so this is in 2006. This is all happening.
Okay.
And so what I found out is that it's very hard. It's very easy to find leukemia in your blood because your white count is very high. It's very hard to find lymphoma in your blood. But what lymphoma will do is it has a leukemic phase. Okay. And that's where I was in 2006. That's why it looks so weird. And that's why I was getting blood tests done like monthly. And it still looked weird, but I wasn't getting sick. And they're like, you're some kind of a freak show, right? We didn't know what was wrong with me. And then about, 14, 18 months later or whatever, it came on full bore. Basically, it had, It had flipped into this highly aggressive form.
Oh, jeez.
And it was just trying to take me down hard. So that was in 2007. And it started with all this pain because, of course, lymphoma is happening in your bone marrow. Mm-hmm. And
so that deep down
bone pain. Yeah. So, and it was weird because it started like right on my rib cage on one side. And so then I thought I had like a massage that had been too aggressive.
Yeah.
So I finally went to my doctor, and for like 5 weeks, I was there every week, and we were doing x-rays. Did you crack a rib? Do you have a gallbladder issue? I mean, we're looking at everything.
Yeah.
And then I was sitting there one day, and I put my hand on my neck like you do, like you're like kind of like, ugh. I said, oh yeah, I've had this little lump here too. I don't know what that is. It was crickets in the room.
Oh no.
And he came over and started to kind of manipulate it, and he said, we need to get it biopsied. And so I was like, okay, well, I mean, that's
first of all, you hear the word biopsy and you're like, oh,
wet your pants.
No. Right.
But it's a surgical biopsy. So they put you under and they have to cut in there. So with each of those weeks progressing, the pain was getting worse. It was moving until it was everywhere.
Oh,
and so the day I went to the hospital for the pre-op appointment, I had to learn all this stuff. I was in so much pain. I I had to call my mom and have her get my brother to come get me because I couldn't get down the stairs. And it hurt to breathe. And so my brother got me. My younger sister ended up taking me to the appointment in a wheelchair. And I was shaking and in so much pain. The nurse finally said, you need to go to the ER. And I'm like, but I'm supposed to have a surgery or something? And she said, no, you need to right now go to the ER. And so I sat back in the wheelchair and I said, she said we have to go to the ER. So my sister Julie turns the wheelchair, bam, right into the wall. Because we were like, what?
Yeah.
So we go to the ER. And I have a story to share about it that's really cool, if I can.
Yeah.
May I? So we went to the ER, and, I'm talkative girl. I'm always going to be.
No, you?
Imagine.
Not you.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Oh.
And so I'm always trying to make everything better for people. And so I'm talking to the doctor. He was pretty cute. I'm just going to say.
So it wasn't hard to talk to
He was
him.
tall. Yeah. It wasn't hard to talk about him. I mean, talk to him. And so we're like joking around back and forth, right? And he's like doing all these tests and stuff. And then we're talking about how when I get out, because then he said, you're going to have to be admitted. And I was like, oh, no. And then, but we were joking like, well, when I get out, we're going to go dancing.
Yes.
So, we had this little thing going. And so the interesting story is that I'm up in the Kaiser Resort and Spa for a couple of weeks as they're doing every test known to man.
I've been to that spa.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not really spa-like.
Wow.
So we did the surgical biopsy as an inpatient. We did bone marrow biopsies with my oncologist and all kinds of things. Well, I had been assigned to an oncologist to follow up from the biopsy. Like, we're going to see what we see. You're going to come in. Maybe I'll tell you that it's nothing, or maybe you need an oncologist. So the day came, because I had already had that biopsy, day came when I was supposed to have my office visit with that oncologist, and I'm still in the hospital. So the nurse calls downstairs to his office and says, hey, your patient is actually still here. So do you want to come up and look at her results and, have your appointment up here? And he said, no, why don't you just have her call the office when she gets released and we'll schedule another appointment. Well, what had happened was the doctor from the ER, I learned something not too long ago from a nurse. They do something called chart stocking. Mm-hmm. Like if they connected with you, they'll like double check your chart just to see everything's okay. You got to go home, everything's fine. So apparently he was chart stocking me. Oh. And he saw that I was still in the hospital. This is all God, by the way. Mm-hmm. Still in the hospital. So he came up just to check in. And when he came up, the nurse was walking into my room to tell me that this oncologist had said, give him a call when you get home. And the ER doctor was like, pissed. And he didn't say anything to me, but he like looked at that nurse and he asked me, he goes, would you mind if I called a different oncologist and just see if he could come up? And I said, I don't know how it works here. So I think
whatever.
That sounds okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
So he went out to the nurse's station, called Dr. Farrell. Mm-hmm. Dr. Farrell was in my room within half an hour doing the bone marrow biopsy that day. Yeah, right. But he did it so well. It wasn't like the other time. But I was already crying. When he said, okay, we're going to do a biopsy, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
He said, we have to. So I know actually, that if I hadn't made this really lovely connection with the ER doc, and if he hadn't stocked my chart and come up right when he did, I wouldn't have been released to have been able to make that phone call to the initial oncologist. Because Dr. Farrell, he's my guy. He's been my guy for 12 years. He's saved my life 3 times. He said to me about 3 years ago, he said, the day we met, you were at death's door. Mm-hmm. When he pulled my bone marrow out, it's supposed to be the brightest, juiciest red, because that's where all the production's happening, right? It was this pale, milky pink because there was almost no blood production happening anymore.
Wow.
So he said, you were at death's door. And we both knew what that meant, that if I would have just languished in the hospital and died.
Yeah.
So isn't that the craziest story?
Yeah, but that's how it works.
I know, right?
Yeah.
What's his nickname? McDreamy, McSteamy?
Let's give him
I don't
a name.
know. We do. I know. I looked up his name and I have it. I can't remember what it is though. Chemo brain. He was kind of a McSteamy. I'd go dancing with that man.
So how did you handle your diagnosis? What was your thought? Had you ever experienced anything with leukemia or lymphoma before?
No.
No one you knew, nothing.
No. And my older sister is a 20-year breast cancer survivor. So I've known, I've watched her fight and her bravery and surgeries. And I was like, okay, I don't want to sign up for that. When I was in that leukemic phase and they were talking about leukemia, it freaked me out, right? I was like, don't people die from that? I don't even know anything,
right.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't that. So I was like, I don't have no cancer. And so then when I got the diagnosis, I was so sick. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was on morphine from the pain. I was so sick. I didn't even get to have a reaction. It was just kind of like...
I imagine, though, it would sort of be after going through all of that and all the testing and waiting and wondering what the hell, to finally get a diagnosis is almost like, okay, well, at least we've put a name to it, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So now we develop an action plan, right? So
I cockily said to my younger sister that day when she rammed me into the wall, I was saying,
Things you remember.
I know, right? She didn't do it on purpose, but
she might have.
Well, have you met her?
No.
But I said a really asinine thing because I said, well, I guess I'd rather find out it's cancer than something that nobody understands, like lupus or something. And I'm not downing on lupus patients, but it is one of those diseases that just continues on, and it's terrible, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least with cancer, like you said, you can create an action plan and you can fight.
There's some sort of standard of care. You know that, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's like, if we do this terrible thing to you and another couple terrible things to you, you're probably going to live. Mm-hmm. And I'm like,
You
okay.
sell it so well.
I know, right? I'll do the terrible things, okay?
Yeah. It's like a hurt so
gnarly.
good.
Yeah.
It's a hurt so good. So what treatment did you have?
So they actually, the night they put it all together, the day they put it all together, I had to start chemo right then. Mm-hmm. And so I had a very aggressive...
Inpatient? Were you...
Inpatient.
Inpatient, yeah.
And I am impatient.
Thank you for clarifying.
There you go. But they... so I was blessed because I was 43, and right in there. I had no other health issues. Mm-hmm. I had a really strong heart, so they could give me the gold standard. They could hit me hard.
Hit it hard, yeah.
So what I had was something called R-CHOP. And the P in CHOP is prednisone, which makes you crazy. We all know that. Right. That one of them stands for vincristine, which is a V, so I don't even understand. And they call that the
I'm like, am I slow here?
No.
I'm not getting the acronym.
She's doing it backwards.
Okay.
Yeah. Vincristine, they call it the mean red because it's so bad. And then the R is what's really interesting. It's a monoclonal antibody called Rituxan. And what it does is, so the CHOP letters stand for chemo, hardcore chemo. The R letter, the Rituxan, is so the chemo's trying to poison the cancer out of you while it's poisoning you.
Right.
This Rituxan monoclonal antibody is improving the function of your immune system. It's making your immune system fight harder. Mm-hmm. And it was something that LLS had funded the research for. And without it, it's been part of my treatment all 3 times.
And that's the Lymphoma and Leukemia Society.
Yeah, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
There you go.
So I'm going to tell you something weird. So the thing about this Rituxan is it is manufactured with like inside of mice. Mm-hmm. Inside of mice. And what I told you before we came on air is one of the jobs I had when I was in college, because you have to have a job to pay for college. I used to be Chuck E. Cheese, a giant rat.
That is hilarious. That is hilarious.
So I was like, I guess I know this, you know. So
I fall in line.
Yeah.
I do like cheese.
How did you handle chemo physically?
Poorly.
How long was your treatment? Like
6 months.
Okay.
And so
were you hospitalized that whole time?
No.
Or on and off?
No, I once I got the first dose and I was on track.
Yeah.
You know, then I got to go home.
Okay.
And they did a surgical port.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I could have my chemo through the port. And it was, but I didn't handle it well and one reason I just figured out last night, to tell you the truth. The main reason is because I was so sick when it started.
Yeah.
But the other reason, so I'm at dinner last night with my mom and my older brother and my older sister for my sister's birthday. And we were, remember this, remember that. We were doing all those memory things. And like 5 of the memories that came up were about me throwing up.
Oh, that's special. Gotta love those family dinners, right?
Yeah, like there's a story. I mean, I knew this one, but when my
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
sister Kathy is like 12 years older than me. More than that. 14 years older than me, I think. And so when I was born, she was like all excited. It was like a living
doll.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she would lay on her stomach and hold me in the ear above her. And then one time she's like, "Oh, Diane," and I barfed right into her mouth.
I think every dad's had that experience. Did any of your kids do that?
Not in my mouth, thank God.
I know. That's like, I mean, how gross, right?
But if you see my first photo shoot with Aiden, you'll notice my sleeves are down.
Yeah.
And it's the naked pictures of the baby.
Yeah.
And then halfway through, my sleeves are up because he had to go to number 2.
Oh.
So
special.
we saw that happen.
Way to go, Aiden.
Like in slow motion, it seemed
It's
like.
like,
So
it's coming out.
I mean, he was baby. So
So apparently I get car sick. I've barfed in many places.
I have a question because you said they hit you with the hardest like dose because you had the strongest heart.
Yes.
Did they ever let up, or is that that was your dose of the whole thing?
No, they never let up. Wow. Yeah.
So 6 months of like.
And it was like every 3 weeks, and then.
So that's kind of what my chemo. So I was 41, and my doctors all said, "Oh, you're young, you're strong. We're going to come at you guns blazing," is what they told me. I'm like, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So I got the harshest regimen of chemo that there was for my breast cancer at the time. So it was 3 drugs all at once every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I had 6 cycles. So it sounds like you had more cycles than I did, but
I actually had 6 cycles. But there were a couple times where my blood counts were so low, it was too dangerous.
Yeah,
so
you had to delay.
It took a little longer. And then the last month wasn't chemo, but it was this Rituxan induction thing. It was supposed to help you stay strong, and reduce relapse possibilities.
Yeah. So you had chemo. You got through that, barely, but you got through it. Was there any other treatment?
I didn't have to do any radiation. It's really hard to radiate your whole body.
Yeah, you can't pinpoint radiation. Radiation treatment is to pinpoint a specific area, so that would make sense.
Yes. The story I didn't tell you, I hope I can share.
Nope. Show's over.
Show's over.
Okay.
That's it. We're done. Bye.
Sorry, people. No, it wasn't all bad news, is what I'm trying to say at the time.
Yeah.
So in 2005, my 14-year marriage ended. And so then 2006 was all this, maybe you have leukemia, whatever. And then 2007, I don't want to say back on my feet because I was never not on my feet, but I was back into life. Like I loved my job. I was in a leadership program. I've been cast in a local performance or a local production of My Fair Lady. Nice. I mean, every fun thing that I like in life was happening, right? And I've been doing some dating, and I actually was on Match.com because I figured, if you have a goal, you got to go for it. And so I've always threatened to write this book called Every Thursday, Whether You Want to or Not, because that was my Match.com date night.
I was like, is this going into our new spin-off show?
Because mostly it was not. You get there and you're like, ugh.
Those are the early days too.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Early days.
Yeah.
Right?
My MySpace was my dating site.
Right. Yeah.
You guys, I actually went out with a guy in a wheelchair on a Thursday night from Match.
Yeah.
He was nice.
Yeah.
I got his little spork out of his backpack, and he could, we had a salad and whatever. He never called me back.
He ghosted you?
He ghosted me in his wheelchair.
Well,
whatever.
Shit, he doesn't discriminate.
No, I know, right? He was like, oh, no. Anyway, I met this guy on Match. Our first date was like the end of April. And he was looking for someone to have fun with in his life because he had been married for a long time. His marriage ended in 2005 as well. And he had 2 kids. They were young teens.
Yeah.
And he needed someone to help finish raising them. And so...
You were down for that?
Yeah. Well, here's why. Because in my marriage, I lost 3 babies.
Okay.
I wanted to be a mom.
Yeah.
and it wasn't in the cards. Yeah. And so I actually thought, in fact, I even said to my mom at one point, I said, my life didn't work out. Why, Mom? I said, I work hard. I paid for my own college, got good grades. I work hard in my career. I made a beautiful home. And here I am, 41, no husband, no babies, no home.
Right.
Why didn't it work out?
Right.
It was pitiful and sad.
So this goes back to what we always say, like females in particular, we're socialized in a way to believe that this is what life is supposed to look like, right?
Yes.
You go to college. If you go, then you get your MRS degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get married, then you have your 2.3 kids, and then you buy a house, and you get the white picket fence. And I always say, like, that sounds really great, but it isn't that way for everybody, and that's okay.
It is okay, and that's okay. That's where I've gotten, right? But when he said he had these 2 kids, and I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I mean, what a cool way for God's plan to work out. It didn't work out the first way that I thought I was in charge of, right?
Right.
So I meet this guy. He's great. We start dating in end of April, and then the pain started on Memorial Day weekend, and then the ending up in the hospital was in early July. So we hadn't even dated 3 months,
and he was there.
He was there. He came to Kaiser. I was there for about 2 weeks. He came every night on his way home from work, checking in. We finally I started the chemo like 2 days before I got out, Wow. And so he got there that night, and now I know that it's stage 4. There's no stage 5. And so I told him what was up. I was already hooked up to the Rituxan.
Wow.
Right? And I said, so here's the deal. You should run. Nobody will hold it against you.
Right.
Go find a woman with hair and who can promise you a future.
Right.
And you guys have heard the story, but
he ran fast.
No, he did. He did give me props for trying to get rid of him, though. He's like, he said, when God gives you a gift, you don't give it back.
Wow. You're going to make me cry.
I know. I cry almost every time, and it's been a very long time. Yeah. And then he said, I already know that I'm meant to spend the rest of my life with you.
Yeah.
So I'm not prepared right now, but will you marry me?
Wow.
Right there at the Kaiser Resort and Spa. And then I said yes, which I never would have done. I mean, if we'd been dating less than 3 months, I would have, and he proposed to me, I would have been like another crazy one.
If you'd have not been in the hospital kind of thing.
Yeah, but it was a whole different dynamic. And so if you were here, he would say that he didn't know if I remember it because I was on so much morphine.
Right.
I did. I remembered.
It reminds me of the interview I did with Tammy Porter. And Tammy had just met her husband, Mike.
Oh, yes.
And shortly into dating, he revealed to her that he'd had heart surgery before or whatever, but then he was diagnosed with breast cancer. And he told her the same thing. His mom actually said, no one's going to expect you to stay. And she just said, no, I know that this is what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
And they have an incredible love story.
Yeah, it's a great story. Listen to it.
You should listen to that.
I will. Because you know what? I've heard and read so many stories of that very opposite thing, where people who have been married to someone for many years, who have made that commitment, and they're just like, yeah, I can't hang. I can't
see
do
it all the time.
Yeah.
I see it all the time with the CARE project. Marriages fall apart, and people say, I just can't handle it. I can't stand to see you look that way. And we're over here like, really? I'm the one who's bald and sick and on death's door, and you can't handle it?
Well, first we got to give Chuck a shout out, right?
Oh yeah, shout out.
He's like the stand-in for Harry from Harry and the Hendersons. He's a giant dude.
Yeah,
totally big dude,
gentle
awesome
giant.
dude. Yeah, and funny as hell.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to be married to her.
Oh my God, yeah, he has to keep up.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't know if I could handle you both at the same time. I might be exhausted.
That sounded awkward.
But cancer after dark.
But the other thing is it's happened a couple times in your shows. One's aired, one hasn't. Your son saying you just have to be there for them, and that's like the only thing you can really say is like, I'm here for you. You tell me what you want me to do. If not, I'm just going to sit here with you
and hold that space, right?
Yeah. Just give them you could feel a person around you, so just give them that.
It's that energy. It's that energy, and just knowing. I have the chills because that's true. Anthony said that in my interview, and then I just interviewed another young man who lost his mother, and I said, "What's your best advice?" And he said the same thing.
Yeah,
just be there.
I got so lucky in many ways, obviously, but Chuck is, so first of all, I think I mentioned this to you before, but he's an IT guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's a nerd, right? He wasn't really
Hey,
God bless
nothing
him.
wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nerds try harder.
They do.
Oh, well.
That's what I have to say.
Well.
But yeah, he wasn't the guy I was dating for a while before I met him, before the Thursday night situation.
Yeah.
You know, he had a Harley. I
Yeah.
mean, he was that guy. And then here comes this giant nerd.
So I have
Glasses, pocket protector,
Kinda.
short sleeves with a tie.
No, never that.
I have a question for you. So I don't know if I'm just going to say it because this is what I do. So I started seeing somebody, right, a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I know. And he's totally different than anything that I've ever dated before.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding that it's, say it. I don't know. It's different, right? So my initial instinct is like, yeah, no. And then I'm like, yeah.
Too good to be true kind of thing?
Kinda.
Or just,
kinda. Like, I'm looking at him like, why are you interested in me, Mr. 5 Degrees with a doctor in front of your name, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, I'm so opposite of you, and you're so opposite of what I would normally be attracted to, but I think it's because of that it's working well.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And he's kind of like, yeah, like, I'd marry you tomorrow if you said yes. And I'm like,
ooh,
yeah, no.
Whoa.
Yeah, no. I'm like,
that
yeah,
moved quick.
that's a whole other episode. But I'm like, yeah, no. So do you think that really can happen and be successful?
Yes. Yeah? Yes, I absolutely
His thing
do.
is, look, he's 52 and he's like, I know what I want and I know what I don't want. And so, like, you just know when you know.
That's what Chuck said. He's 4 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we both came out of marriage. I mean, if a marriage is great, it's not going to end, right? So we both came out of marriages.
Right.
And the thing he said, okay, he said he was hooked from our first date.
Okay.
Because I was supposed to go to an event, a Chamber of Commerce event at the Riverside Convention Center.
Mm-hmm.
So we met for a drink, you know, because that's the way you do it on a match,
Mm-hmm.
right? At that martini bar in the Marriott across the way.
Yeah.
Because I thought, okay.
I know that bar
Safe.
very well.
Right. Safe, public, short time because I have somewhere to be.
Right.
So I get out, right?
Right. Just in case.
Genius.
Yeah.
Well, here's what happened. So we meet and we sit down and we order a drink. And what's happening is all these people I know are coming through the bar on their way to the convention center.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I'm like up and down, hugging. I'm saying, oh, this is my friend Chuck.
Yeah.
And
you're like,
this
what's your
is-
name again?
I mean, yeah, I was like, I don't know how to do this exactly.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, you know, introducing him and up and down and smiling and I'll be over there. Yeah, I'll be over there. And he said that he was like, oh yes, I want some more of that. I want that.
Wow.
Well,
The
he
amount
said,
of people that like loved you and like came up to you and said
and the
hi.
outgoingness
Yeah,
and the
like
fun.
the fun.
This is funner, right?
That's right. This is
funner.
Yeah.
That's
Now I
what we
have to
say.
say the other thing though. He said, you know, he looked at the boobs. I have to say it. He was like, I want those, and then I want that, and so that's all good.
It's a good package. It's a good package.
He's got his priorities, I
So
guess.
and what was funny is, so we were just talking, and it was, you know, we're just chatting it up, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, people aren't coming through here anymore, and he's like, hey, what time are you supposed to be at that thing? And I was like, 6:30, and he's like, yeah, it's 7:15.
Oh man.
And I'm like, ah! And then I'm thinking, I knew that my table was with the Board of Education down front.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not walking
Yeah.
in.
It's like the walk of shame.
Right.
Yeah, right?
And you come in the side door too.
I know. It's like, and they're doing a presentation or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey. So I thought, okay, well, you know, I'll just say that I had to stay at work and the big project. Can't go to dinner with you people.
Yeah.
And so Chuck, being the cool man that he is, I didn't know he was this cool. He's like, well, since I'm the reason you had to miss your dinner, can I take you out to eat? So we go to, he was smooth.
Yeah.
So we go to part 2 of the date. We
Part 2.
he lived in Redlands. I lived in Loma Linda at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So we went from Riverside over towards our end. We sat and had a lovely dinner and chatted and everything. And I thought, this is nice. But what sealed the deal for me was he walked me to my car and he laid a kiss on me. And I was like, because I was thinking, oh, this nerd's not going to make a move.
I can
like,
guarantee you that's the same thing Evelyn thought when I went out there.
And I'm like, that's fine. I mean, whatever. I'm sure I don't have to deal with any of that. And then he just leaned down. It was
I can
nice.
relate to that.
Right?
Yeah, my knees went, ugh. And I was like, oh, I'm not ready.
And And then he laid this sweet, sweet kiss on me, and he's like, I really want to see you again. And I'm like, okay.
Did you do that thing they do in 50 First Dates where they go back to the car and they dance a little bit?
I was like right there at my car, so I'm
She
like,
had to play it cool till he walked away.
I did. And so but the problem was, so I called Nan, my best friend.
Yeah.
On the way home, she's like, well, how did it go? And I'm like, he's a nerd. And she's like, And she thought I was saying, so he's out.
It's bad.
Yeah.
And I had to just reconcile,
Yeah.
the whole thing, like you're doing right now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that they know what they want.
Yeah.
They know what's good.
There's
they
something
know
great about being
themselves.
this age, right?
Yes.
Like I'm 49, he's 52, and it's just like you just know what you know.
Yeah.
You're not messing around.
No, you're
Yeah.
not. Yeah, you're not. You know, and it's just
And
yeah.
you're not, and you're showing your true self. Because
yeah,
in
because
the
we're
end-
comfortable in our own skin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't want to have to live up to something, some little caricature of myself.
Right, right.
And then at some point he'll be like, I didn't really know you were like that.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
you're going to know it all from the get-go. Of course, when you're in the middle of chemo and so here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably the most genuine time you would see
Oh,
a
yeah.
person,
Oh, my
would
God,
think.
I
Well,
know,
you're
right?
stripped to your core.
Yeah, like you're
Yes.
with the weakest you could probably be.
Yes.
And he's there right by you, so like...
So I had my own place and everything, but I was staying with my parents because I was too sick to do anything. And so it was a Sunday, and I was like maybe 2/3 of the way through the chemo. I had a wig, but I didn't want to call it a wig. I called it the hat. Because if you have a wig, you're a cancer patient, right? And it was, and I have thin hair, and this thing was thick and whatever. So Chuck came over to my parents, and he said, you know what, I'm going to, because my mom was trying to take care of my dad and me. Chuck said, Dorothy, my mom, I'm going to take Diane for the afternoon. I'll take her to my apartment. We called it Camp Divorce. I'm going to take her to Camp Divorce. We're going to watch some football. I'll bring her back later.
Oh, I love him.
I'm down.
I know, right?
Can we go?
Yeah, come on. Well,
We'll
we don't
bring
live
the
at
bear.
Camp Divorce anymore. Anyway, so I had, the big pink basin for the barfing.
To puke in,
Yeah, because that was happening all, like 20 times a day, basically. But I'd gotten a little bit better. So we're in his big old Durango, big, tall, red thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, have the bucket just in case. And so I say to Chuck, I'm like, hey, if I like lean over and start hacking it up, will you grab the hat? Because I don't want it to be full of barf, right? I thought
Hold
I was
my
like,
hair back.
Like holding my hair back.
yes, right? But you have to take it off.
Totally.
And it's a little strategy. Okay. So we were.
Is that where you drew the line? He's like, I am not doing that. No, just kidding.
No, here's what. We're only like not even a mile from my parents' house. We hadn't even hit the freeway yet, right?
Oh.
We're at a red light, and I'm like, oh, because you feel it coming on. I'm like, oh, and I get I have the bucket, and I start to lean over, and I'm like, and he grabs the hat,
He snatches
and he
it
pulls
off.
it off my head, and people are in the car next to us going,
He just scalped her.
and then I'm leaning down, so he's like, does he have her whole head or what?
Where'd she go?
Oh my gosh, we could talk
Oh
to
my
you
God, that's
forever. That
hilarious.
is hilarious.
Oh, I love
You
that.
have to laugh.
Okay,
right?
so fast forward. You've been married for how long now?
We just celebrated 12 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Keep hope alive.
It can happen. And the thing is, when you literally just drop all the pretense and
Yeah.
you let yourself be known and seen
Yeah.
for who God made you and who
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah.
I mean, like our second date, I confessed all the reasons why he shouldn't even date me, right? I'm like, you don't want to date me. I mean, here's this, here's that, here's what I did in my marriage, here's, I don't have any money. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm a bad
You
deal.
lay it all out.
Is this a similar scenario to Carrie's where it's like almost too good to be true? You're like, why are you hanging around so much? Like you're doing everything right.
Yes.
So
he's
I don't-
cooking
yeah.
for me. He's,
Evelyn had that issue.
yeah.
She did.
'Cause-
She pushed me
yeah.
away a lot. at the
I
beginning.
totally did.
Yeah.
And
And she didn't have a sickness or anything, and that's like a
well,
double
this is
whammy.
before I got sick.
Oh, okay.
This is before I got sick, and I'm just like, here's the thing. That Thursday night situation, it was really more for checking the box. Like, I'm trying.
Yes.
I wasn't really thinking about something deep. I was thinking about, I was thinking about getting laid. Okay, let's just be honest, right?
Well, hey, there's that.
So the night that we're at his house, Camp Divorce, and he was making dinner, we started making out, and he goes, I don't even know if I'm doing this right. And I'm like, you're doing good. He goes, I can't stop smiling, so I can't really focus.
I love this. We're going to have Chuck on.
Oh, yeah.
you
Chuck
should-
is
he'd
awesome.
be great.
We'll have cocktails.
And so that pushing away thing is real because it was like maybe a month into, I think the pain had just started, but we didn't know what it was and stuff. And I'm at his place, and we were talking about our marriages. You got to get that conversation
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And he pops off with this. He's like, I will always treat you with kindness. I will always treat you with respect. And I will always treat you with love. And I was like,
you're like, where'd you read that?
Oh, no, I was
Yeah,
like,
right.
okay, freak show.
What urinal?
I wasn't.
And why do we default to that, though?
I know, because
Why do
I
we
was like,
question it.
I was like, and so I literally was like, early morning, gotta go. Yeah. And I just walked out. I just left because I'm like, he mentioned love. I'm like, I'm not really here for that.
Okay. Did you have the one shoe on and one shoe off walk of shame?
Yeah, I was like, I'm really going
Doing
to
that
go.
walk of shame.
I was. And because I was like, I'm not set up for a love situation right now. I'm set up for fun. And so it was a couple days that it was just a kind of, quiet. And he thought he blew it. He was like, I totally ruined the best thing ever. I blew it. So I actually went and put a note on his car, and I was like, I'm really sorry. That was like just a crazy reaction. Sorry about that. Hope you'll call. And he did.
Good.
And
Good.
There you go.
See, we
He
have
was
to
actually
do
looking
that.
out his window when you put the note in your car.
He's like, that's right. That's right.
She's right there. Okay, hold on. She can't see me. I'm gonna go.
Wait, is she scratching my car?
Yeah, right. Is that a key in her? Is she keying my car right now? I ruined it that bad? You
It's
can't really. I
true.
mean, Chuck
It's-
really can't hide. So
No.
Yeah.
He's 6'5".
That's
He's
so cool.
big
Well,
dude
that's
also.
how, I went on like the Facebook dating app.
They have that?
They do. And it's actually
Oh, I don't know
very-
about it. I'm married. Don't look at
I'm
me.
married. I don't know. Nothing.
It's very user friendly, and we did it myself and two other single survivors, and I had challenged them like, okay, get back out there because they'd had some bad experiences, and I said, I'll get on it.
You got to show leadership.
Well, that's
right?
funny because
And then I was like, I don't really want to go, but I'll go on it.
I'm surprised it's taken so long, to be honest with you. Like I said earlier, MySpace it wasn't a dating site,
Yeah.
but it was a dating site.
It was a dating.
was a
totally
it was the
hookup
first
site.
social, it was a total hookup
Yeah.
site or party site or
Yeah.
any of that stuff.
Yeah.
The fact that they're just now implementing it on the most popular website ever
Yeah.
is really
I
baffling.
think it came
to
out
me.
about a year ago, but it's really done well. You're very protected, and it's very
Good.
cool. But I, in my mind, I was kind of like, okay, I think I'm ready. Like my youngest is 21. I only have one at home. She's gonna be gone soon. Like the care project's off on its own, and okay, I think I'm ready for some companionship, but nothing major really. But then I was like, but I also am not like just going to go hook up with somebody, like
Oh, whoops.
anyone who has to deal with all of this. But you got to understand, I'm talking about after cancer.
Yeah.
Right.
You were
right.
before cancer.
I was young and beautiful then.
Right. Well, I was too before, but
You're beautiful now.
well, thank you.
Thank you.
But yeah, I really was sort of like, I think deep down I was like, yeah, I really want this now.
Yes.
But then I was kind of like, nah, I'm really not gonna. But then this guy shows up and I'm like, oh shit,
Maybe you're
I wasn't ready.
And see,
That's
that's
the best time.
well, yeah, because that's what they say, right? When you're not looking.
Well, that was the first part of the interview. So please rate, review, subscribe, and come back next week because we're going to have the second part of the interview where Diane gets a little bit more in depth about her book and everything that she's involved with. And we talk more about her journey through thriving past cancer numerous times. So don't forget to go to thecareprojectinc.org to find out what Carrie's up to and to buy her book, Handle with Care. And flatter me. Go to thisisfunner.com and check out all the podcasts and online content that I produce every week. All right? Make sure you tune in next week for the second half of this interview, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Handle with Care, breast cancer and beyond. Please let us know what you think of the show by leaving a rating and review. And don't forget to share it with a friend. For more information or to connect with Carrie, go to thecareprojectinc.org.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Can you have zero interest in something and still really want it? Your wallet would say yes. And with Simply Zero from South Carolina Federal Credit Union, you can transfer credit card balances and get 0% intro APR for 12 months. That's right, no interest all year. So you pay less and keep more. To learn more, visit scfederal.org/simplyzero. That's scfederal.org/simplyzero.
Variable APR ranges from 11.74% to 17.99% thereafter. Limited time offer restrictions apply.